Hello, this is the video a lot of you have been waiting for. That is a full review of the Sun Living V60SP. We've been living full time in this van for 6 weeks in Scotland in January. Now that is a far tougher test than most people buying this van will put it through. So hopefully we've really taken it to its extremes and done most things with it, and hopefully that will help you. But bear in mind, some of the things we talk about, the extreme cold weather use, may not be relevant to everyone buying this van. We're going to go through the review in 4 parts, and that's going to be the exterior, driving the van, the interior, and then a sum up at the end. And as far as the exterior, driving, and the interior go, I'm going to talk about the things that have absolutely blown me away, that are fantastic. Going to talk about the deal breakers, things that would maybe make me think twice about buying a van like this. The gripes and niggles, sort of niggly things that have started to grate after the 6 weeks but wouldn't necessarily stop me buying the van. And then finally, if we've had any breakages or failures as regards to the exterior, driving, or the interior of the van. I've got my Van Life t-shirt here. That's from the indie projects Theo and B, so I'll put a link to their channel below. But in the meantime, let's crack on and start with the exterior of the van. Now, as far as the exterior of the van goes, I'm going to start with the things I love. And what I love most about it is quite simply the look of it. It's a very clean, simple, minimal design, understated graphics, no silly squiggles and this, that and the other. One of my subscribers who came to look at the van, Willie, also commented that he would be confident buying a van like this and being able to store it at home without his neighbours complaining, because it just looks like an ordinary van. To me, it's the perfect combination of discreet and yet it still looks like a camper van. It is 6 meters long. That makes it easy to park, easy to pop to the shops, easy to be your only vehicle if that's what you're thinking of. And for us, it's also been cheaper on CalMac ferries, where we've travelled for the same price as a car. As far as services go, freshwater and wastewater, well, the freshwater is really easy to get to. It's got a lockable cap, which has been great. And the tank is 100 litres. That is brilliant. That's kept us going for days. The waste tank is 90 litres. You have to go on your hands and knees to operate the lever, but it's fairly simple. It's been easy for me to do that on my own. The tank does not appear to be insulated. Now, we've had some freezing conditions, but we've never needed to empty the tank. So unfortunately, I can't tell you how you would get on for an extended cold weather break. As far as deal breakers go, there are no deal breakers as far as I'm concerned with the exterior of the van. Good news. However, there are a few things that have really cheesed me off over the past couple of weeks, and one of them is the locking. Now, the van will lock itself when you get to a certain speed, I guess about 10 miles an hour, which is fine, but then when you open your door, it won't unlock all the other doors, and you need to proactively remember to unlock every door using the central button or the key fob if you want to get in the side door after getting out the front door, or if you want to get to the back doors. It's been causing me grief the whole 6 weeks, and I just wish that when one door unlocked, it would unlock all the other doors. Another one of the things that has really niggled me about the exterior is the sliding door. Number one, it's on the wrong side of the van for UK use. So if, for example, your dog isn't very well behaved and is prone to jumping out ahead of you, or if you're traveling with children and you may not be able to watch them all the time, it's something to be aware of. It's not really been a problem for us, but there have been occasions where we've had to enter and exit the van through the passenger door in the cab, which means a lot of wiggling around to get in and out. The other thing with that sliding door is it lets all the heat out when you open it, which has been a bit of an issue. And if snow is melting on the outside of the van, or it's been raining, when you slam it, it will splash the kitchen with water. Another problem is there's no interior handle on this door, so it's a bit of a pain to shut, and you really need to slam it, because if you just close it, you'll get in the car to drive away and you'll get an alarm that the door is open. So this side door, it needs a handle. It lets the heat out, it splashes the kitchen, it's on the wrong side of the van. It's a consequence of the van, and it's something that I'm prepared to live with. I just don't like it. Other slight annoyances are, while I love the electric step, there is no alarm to tell you that the step is out if you start the ignition. The gas locker access is through the garage, so if, for example, it's freezing cold at night, usually when we are changing our gas cylinders, you are letting all the heat out the van. And finally, as regards to the garage, there's no light in the garage, so you can sometimes be rummaging around in the dark. This is where a head torch, or maybe those little stick-on lights, the little stick-on self-contained lights with a battery that are motion activated, maybe that'd be a good idea for you to stick a couple of those in the garage. Breakages and failures. I am delighted to tell you there have been no breakages or failures as regards to the exterior of the van. Now let's move on to the actual driving of the van. Right, off we go. So we will start with the things I absolutely love about driving this van. And I would say obviously the main thing is, like most vans of this size, it's under 3.5 tons. So you don't need any special kind of license to drive this in the UK, just your normal car license. I love the fact it's just really easy to drive. There's no special skills required. Okay, you're a little bit more upright than you are in a car, but generally it's just a very easy van to drive. One thing I've been banging on about a lot since I've had this van is the fact that there is no banging about, is the fact that the build quality is awesome and there are no squeaks and rattles. Sometimes people have heard things jumping around in the cupboards. That's just my poor packing, because there have been no squeaks or rattles from the van itself, and I think that is awesome. Another great thing I didn't realise until I started driving this van are these two windows here either side of the van, directly behind the driver's seat. You've got one here in the door and you've got one there at the dinette. So if you're at a staggered junction, you need to look back, or on the motorway. Quite often as a biker, I still do, even in a car, I do what I call lifesavers. So before you pull out, I glance over my shoulder to check there's nothing in my blind spot, even though there are blind spot mirrors. I'm just like that. And the fact you've got these two windows here make life so much safer. So that is absolutely spot on. Mind you, it would be nice sometimes if caravan sites did put their barriers at friendly levels. Because this window, you see, let me bring this over. This window doesn't open fully, and the barrier thing's down there. So you might have to open your door on occasion to let yourself in and out of campsites. Right, off we go. Another thing I love about this van is it's got a really good turning circle. It's highly manoeuvrable, so it's easy to turn around and get in and out of spaces, reverse around corners and things. I guess because I normally drive a Nissan Navara, which has the turning circle of an oil tanker, I'm really impressed with the tight turning circle of this van. As far as there go the doors. As far as cab comfort goes, I love the fact you've got the USB charger to charge up your mobile phone, as well as a 12-volt socket. You've also got 4 seat belts, which some people might say, why have you got 4 seat belts in a 2-berth van? Well, I've taken friends out for dinner just to test the seat belts, you understand. And that night, because we had 2 friends and we had the dog who is clipped in onto a seat belt attachment, we needed all 4 belts. So if this is going to be your only vehicle, even though it's a 2-berth van, it's got 4 belts, which is terrific. And my friend Amanda does assure me that the back seat is fairly comfortable, it's upright, it's very similar to travelling on a train, and she tells me that the table is perfect for cross stitch. So there you go. If the passenger, rather than travelling in the passenger seat, wants to sit in the back seat and work at the laptop or do some cross stitch, there you go. So that's all the things I love about it. What about the deal breakers as far as driving goes? Well, I am delighted to tell you there are absolutely no deal breakers as far as the driving goes. Breakages and failures. Well, so far we've done 2,000 miles and the van has not skipped a beat. It's been perfect, absolutely brilliant. No breakages or failures whatsoever as regards the driving of the van. Now then, gripes and niggles. There are plenty of those. The main one for me has been the lack of a decent cup holder. I mean, I'm doing long journeys in this van, all day sometimes, and I have to put my water bottle in the bin at the side of this door because it won't fit the cup holder in the dashboard. The same goes for my thermal mug. That won't fit in the cup holder either. I just think that's crazy. You've got people doing long journeys in these vans, whether or not they're motorhomes or commercial vans, and no decent cup holder. Now the engine in this particular van is a 2.3 130 bhp diesel engine, and it's okay. It's never going to set your pants on fire, but it does the job. It's okay, it's fine. It struggles a little bit up hills, but the one thing I will say about it is that it's got a 6-speed manual gearbox. Automatic is an option, and I find the gears very, very low. I am in 6th gear at 40 miles an hour. That's really low. So by the time you get to 60, 70 miles an hour, you're doing well over 2,500 revs. I guess that's because it's a heavy van. It's sort of 2.3 tons, I believe. Check on the website for the correct specs. It's a heavy van, and the gearing is just low to compensate for the 130 bhp engine. It's fine, it does the job. As I say, we struggle a little bit up hills, but you know, it's okay. I'm not sure, unless I was towing something, I'm not sure I would bother going for an engine upgrade. Now the ride quality is hard. At the end of the day, this is not a car, this is a van. So the ride quality is going to be hard. You can hear some things banging around at times. That's not the build of the van, that's the hard suspension and the bumpy roads of Edinburgh. One thing I missed that's not standard feature is a reversing camera. It's an option, and it's an option I would definitely recommend you go for, because the cost of a reversing camera, I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be less than the cost of a crunched back door. So it's a shame it's not standard, but I guess being an entry-level van, that's why it's not standard. Personally, I've really missed a reversing camera. Another tiny little niggle, which was very important when we were driving through all the snow and ice and salt coming up and everything. There's no warning that your windscreen washer levels are getting low. You just run out. And I find that's a bit of a pain. So just be aware that there's no windscreen washer low warning on this van. And finally, just one last little niggle about the driving and the cab area, and that is these seats are covered with sun living fabric as part of the comfort pack, and I found that after 6 weeks, 2,000 miles, this cover to the driver's seat is already starting to fray very slightly, which is not in keeping with the quality of the rest of the van. So hopefully that can be addressed, but I have noticed that this cover is starting to fray a little bit. Something just to be aware of. Yeah, but yes, you might want to get covers for your seats because this one has been prone to fraying. So that's the driving and the cab. Now let's head over back to site and talk about the interior. Okay, so that's now the exterior and the driving of the van. Now let me grab the camera and take you on a tour of the interior. Are you comfortable there, Dougal? You comfortable? Yeah, I think Dougal's comfortable. Yeah, you comfortable? You comfortable? Oh, bless. Right, we're going to start off with things I absolutely love about this van. And quite simply, the main thing I love about it is the design and the style once again. There's no tacky, glossy wood. If you don't like tambour doors, this is the van for you because there are no tambour doors either. And there are no fiddly locker catches. Now, one of the things that really excites me about this van are these locker handles, because they're positively latched, and the way you open them is you put your whole hand in. As you pull it back, you pull the clip, and it's so simple. There's the clip. Like that. I think that is just genius, because there are so many lockers with fiddly little things you've got to press, and if you've got arthritis in your hands or anything, it's going to be really difficult. This, it doesn't matter if you've got arthritis or anything wrong with your hands, you can just put your hand in, curve your fingers down. It's so simple, it's so easy, and they're positively locked. I am so excited about these locker handles. I can't tell you. And in a similar vein, the build quality of this van is just awesome. I mean, everything is really solid. I mean, this table, you can lean on it. It's really solid. So awesome build quality of this van. I love loads of storage. Now, I'm going to put a link under this video to a previous van tour I've done of this van, where I've gone through all the storage, so loads of storage. And then the lighting, I really love the lighting, I'd say the only thing I don't love about the lighting is in the cab area. This cab area can get quite dark at night. They could do with some kind of an LED strip under here to brighten up the cab in the evenings, but generally I love the lighting. And then finally, one of the things I love about this van, now this hot air outlet turns this entire compartment into a fantastic drying room, and trust me, we've needed that on occasion. And the other thing I wanted to mention is about this floor. It's a terrific floor. It's not fragile or delicate, yet it's still perfect for showering on, and you've got two drains. You've got a drain there, and then by my boots there you can see a second drain, so no matter which way you're pitched, if you're slightly on the tilt, the water drains out. So it's a terrific floor in the wet room. Deal breakers. What about deal breakers? For me, there is one deal breaker with this van, and we're looking at it right now. It's this garage door. This door opens towards the load. Now, because it's piled up with rubbish in the garage at the moment, I cannot access the garage from the cabin of the camper van. As such, because I am working, I have these rucksacks, my thermal screens for night time. I've got more rucksacks here with delicate electronics in. I would love to be able to put those out of the way and put them in the garage, but I can't, because I can't open the door, and I don't want to go outside in all weathers to keep running in and out with my rucksacks, with my computer and electronics and so on. It's a real pity that there's no hatch in this door, or that it could even be a tambour door. So this for me is a huge problem, that I can't access the garage from inside the van. You could lift up the bed, but then that's not easy either. It's still a huge faff. Then you might as well just go outside. That to me is the deal breaker. That if there was some kind of an access door within that door, or it opened the other way, or it was a tambour door, that would make my day. Annoyances and niggles. Well, there are heaps of niggles I've had over the past few weeks, one of which is the fact there's nowhere to put the bin, so I'm always having to have a bag of rubbish and recycling next to the door. Another annoyance has been with the kitchen tap, and I'll show you for why. And that is, it's fixed. You can't swivel it round, so you can see where the jet of water goes. It's right over at the edge of the sink. If you're trying to wash plates and things like that, fill up something, it's really annoying. All you want to do is just keep turning this tap so that the faucet is over the center of the sink. It drives me crazy. And staying in the kitchen, these drawers are terrific. However, they open up into the narrowest part of the camper van, so you can see there's very little space to stand as you're opening the drawer, and all you're doing is moving to the side so that you can access what's in the drawer. It would be so much easier if they were divided down the middle and there were 6 drawers, so you could stand to one side and open half of that width rather than the full width. Moving on to another source of annoyance for me anyway, and that's been this fridge. It's a compressor fridge. That means it only works off of 12 volts. Now it's quite spacious. However, that spaciousness comes at a price, and that price has been power consumption. Now, despite the claims of the manufacturer that it consumes 4 amps, we've had an ammeter to the battery, and this fridge has on occasion been consuming 6.5 amps. And even at night on the night setting, it's been taking 2.5 amps. It's fairly noisy, and you have to remember at night to put it into night mode to quieten it down. And then of course I forget, and in the morning I forget to switch it back. And as a consequence, the stuff in the freezer box has defrosted and then refrosted, and I would not trust this box for more than a couple of days. So it looks great that you've got this freezer box. I have actually found it's not terribly practical, and it hasn't worked terribly well. However, it's fine just for keeping stuff cool. And while we're on the subject of battery consumption, these lights also consume almost an amp, which by the time you've added that to the 1 amp average for the heater and the sort of 5 amp average for the fridge, you can see now why we were eating our battery within one night. Another niggle I've had is that I've not really managed to get very comfortable in this van, unlike Dougal there. The seats are very narrow, so even if you try and put your legs over the edge, you can't get comfortable like that. They're very upright, and even using the driver's seat, it's very high up, and if it's turned around your legs are dangling. So I've not got terribly comfortable with this van. I've often thought on many occasions that we would have been better off with the V60SP with its sofas at the rear. It's just something to bear in mind if you're buying a camper van of this layout. I don't find it terribly comfortable, and in the winter that's more of an issue than it is in the summer, when of course you'll be outside. Right, moving into the bedroom area, there are some great things about the bed. It's actually a very comfortable bed. I found it really comfy, and a lot of people have asked how long it is. I've measured it. It is 1.93 m, which is 6'4" in length, so really good size and a really good length. However, it's not without its niggles. I can't sit up because the lockers are too low. It makes me wonder why they've put those reading lights in, as well as these brilliant LED lights, because unless you're sort of over on your shoulder, leaning on your side, you're not going to be reading in bed. Also, you'll see there are useful cubby holes there, but there's nowhere to plug in your phone, and there's also nowhere to stand a cup of tea. And you know what I'm like with my cup of tea. One of my friends, Kathy, she commented that this step isn't very good. I've actually found it okay because you can get your foot right underneath the bed. It is a small step, and some people will find this quite annoying, but I've actually found it okay, believe it or not. And then finally, about the bed, under the pillow here is the heater, and let's talk about the heating. For a start, you have these really old school, rather confusing Truma combi controls, whereas the iNet display would be far better and far easier to understand. Also, the heater is right under the pillow, so if it's working on gas, you hear the click 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 whoomph as you're sleeping. And then this fan has been fitted with the comfort pack, which means that we have up to 1800 watts in mains power to power the heating, which when we have electricity included on our campsites we want to make the use of. I have found that if the temperature has dropped to below about 3 degrees, it struggled on 1800 watts, and I've needed to boost it by using the LPG as well. Finally, to round up the niggles and annoyances, we're back in the washroom. Now, I've used the shower on many occasions, and it actually works incredibly well. The only thing I would say is, because you have this fixed sink in the corner and the toilet there, there's not a huge amount of room to maneuver, and I like to use soap now rather than shower gel in an attempt to reduce plastic use. As such, if you drop the soap and the door is closed, it's really hard to get down and pick the soap up. So the moral is, don't drop the soap. I really wish they got rid of that sink and had a tip-up sink that was over the toilet instead. That would be so much better. And while we're on this sink that I really don't like, as I've mentioned earlier, there are 2 drains in the floor for when you're having a shower, but there's only one drain here, and it's a flat bottomed sink. Now, I'm sorry, that makes it absolutely impossible for the water to drain and to try and keep it clean. This huge flat bottom to the sink, really annoying. I wish it was a proper basin shape with the plug in the bottom, or there should be 2 plugs, or as I said earlier, just get rid of this annoying sink and put it over on this side over the toilet and make it a fold down unit. So that's the washroom. Generally, I think it's absolutely brilliant for the size of van. It could just do with a few little tweaks to make it even more user friendly. You really don't look impressed, Dougal. You really don't look impressed. You love it really, don't you? Ooh. Breakages and failures. Now, the only failure we have had with this van, as many of you will know, was with the charging system for the leisure battery while we were driving along from the alternator. It appears that there was something wrong with the split relay. I don't know if that was an Adria issue or a Fiat issue with the base vehicle. However, it was attended to promptly and efficiently by Scott Motorhomes, an Adria dealer up here in Scotland, in Perth. So thank you to Scott Motorhomes for sorting that out so quickly. Combined with the higher than average power consumption of the fridge and the lights and so on, that managed to flatten the battery after about 1 day off grid. Now, there has been some debate online I've seen about the Euro 6 engine and whether or not it robs the leisure battery to charge up the vehicle battery. The jury is still out on that one. What I will say is that if you are intending to spend even just 1 night off grid, then I would seriously recommend that you went for the option of the wiring for the second leisure battery and put 2 leisure batteries under the passenger seat, not just one. So as I say, if you are going to spend even just one night off grid, I would strongly recommend that you got 2 leisure batteries, and the wiring for the second leisure battery you can have done as an option when the van is being built. I would seriously recommend that. If we had had 2 leisure batteries, we would not have had a problem. To bring this review to a close, a summary. Now, the best thing about this van, what I love about it, is the fact that you get everything you need, but you don't get frills and frivolity that you don't need. And as such, this van is cracking value for money. At the moment, January 2018, while we're recording this, Sun Living are now throwing in the comfort packs free of charge in the UK. That means that you get this van with a fly screen to the side door, air conditioning to the cab, colour-coded bumpers, cruise control, the electric option on the Truma combi heater, colour-coded cab seats, a ton of extras, and that is all included in the price, and that price is £41,995, so say £42,000. I think that is outstanding value for money for a vehicle like this. Now, as far as the layout goes, I am really torn between this one, the V60SP, and the V65SL, which has sofas at the back and is ½ a metre longer. We would have had a lot more daytime space to relax in the V65SL, and that is even more important in the winter. However, that daytime living space comes at the expense of the garage space. While it's been annoying I couldn't get to the garage from inside the van, I've filled that space with things like my fire pit, firewood, snowboard, not that we got a chance to use it, but it was nice to have it, tools and all that kind of thing. Now, if we had not had the garage space, I don't know what I would have done with all that kit. I would have probably got fed up with having it out on display or moving that from one end of the van to the other. So it's not an easy choice. This van being shorter was cheaper on the ferries and it was easier to park, but then, as I said, we also missed the daytime space. That is the choice you make. That is the compromise. Do you want the daytime space or do you want the garage and the storage? I am going to do another video about things I'd wish I'd known at the beginning of this trip and about some of the accessories that we've used that have been really useful. So that's another video for another time. But right now I do want to say that one thing I really wish we'd specified was the second battery. I think a second battery would have solved all the problems we had on this trip where we couldn't stay more than one night off grid because of the drain on the battery. A lot of people have said, why didn't I get a solar panel fitted? I think that's probably because we were in Scotland in the winter, not a huge amount of daylight. I don't think it would have been a great help. However, if you are going to use this van off grid between Easter and the end of October, then absolutely get a solar panel. And with the compressor fridge, even though it's a bit noisy, that means you can just keep going off grid and not have to worry about anything. So with a second battery and a solar panel, if you're going to go off grid in the summer, that is definitely worth considering. So finally, just to wrap this up, I just want to stress once again, you get all this van for £42,000. Now, I know it's a lot of money. However, there are plenty of people out there who spend far more than £42,000 on a car. Now, those cars don't have kitchens, beds, private bathrooms, and admittedly, maybe they're a little bit more comfortable to drive, that you can get them into multi-storey car parks, which you can't with this. But the freedom that this van will give you for the price of a mid-range car is phenomenal. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. If you had £42,000 to spend on a nice car or a van that is going to enrich your life beyond measure, it's an absolute no-brainer. So that just about wraps this video up. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out my previous video that we did at the beginning of this tour about 6 weeks ago, which was a van tour, and I took you around all the storage and the garage and we tried to get the motorbike in. So I'll put a link to that video in the description below. I'll also put a link to the Sun Living website below this video so you can check that out. A huge thank you to Sun Living for sponsoring this trip without interfering or influencing the content. And finally, thank you for watching and for joining us on this trip. So it just leaves me to say, from me and from Dougal, smile. All the effort. Oh dear, sorry. As you were. Thanks for tuning in.